Is your mind supporting you through your menopause, or is it hindering you? Welcome to Menopause Monday. Today, I'm going to be talking about how we can change the narrative of our experience of menopause and how we can actually use our mind, harness the power of our mind to make it a more positive experience. Firstly, I think if we're all going through our menopause, we should celebrate the fact that we've got to this stage of our life. It's a gift, an opportunity, an experience denied to so many others who have not got this far. So firstly, let's just be positive about the fact that we've got this far and we are old enough, wise enough, mature enough to experience menopause. Even if you've had an early induced menopause through surgery, let's still celebrate the fact that we're able to experience what it is to be in a woman's body. Yep, I know there's a lot of negative connotations about being in a woman's body, and I think women on the whole, we're some of the best ones at taking the mickey out of ourselves. Perhaps that's the best way to deal with it. But when we change our perceptions of how we go through the menopause, we can actually use our mind to support that journey. Now, I want to sort of give you a quick story about pain and pain's expectations, because I think you'll find it's a similar metaphor to how we experience our symptoms of menopause. I also want you to understand you are very much in the driver's seat. It's not a passive thing. There are so many things that you can do to enhance your experience of menopause. It's something that we all go through if we live long enough, but there are certain things that we can do in order to make that journey better. And then it's just up to us. Do we want to make those choices, to make those changes, or do we want to rely on external influencers, external medications to support our journey? And yes, in some cases those are necessary. I've got nothing against hormone replacement therapy or medications when you need them. They serve a very important role. But I think for the vast majority of us, we can actually make the changes ourselves. But harnessing the power of our mind is also a tool that I think we're just conditioned to be passive. You know, if we don't earn enough, somebody benefits us, we get benefits. We have an illness, so we have pills to get rid of that illness. Something goes wrong in our life, so we wait for somebody to come and rescue us. That's a very sort of blunt way of looking at it. However, when we realize that we have so much power in our minds and at our fingertips, it makes taking that journey, it makes taking responsibility for our health something that we really should be leading the way forward for, not looking for other people to support us when there are things that we can do to support ourselves. And harnessing the power of the mind is something that isn't talked about an awful lot. So this metaphor I want to share with you, when I was giving birth to my daughter at home, she was my firstborn. She turned out to be a big baby, or quite a large baby. And I wanted to have her at home. I was healthy, I was fit, I wasn't too far from hospitals if anything had gone wrong. We weren't too far. My midwives were very highly skilled. I had every confidence in them. And I felt very strongly that labour, pregnancy should not be a medical issue. It's a biological process. And in some certain circumstances, medical intervention is necessary for the mother and for the baby. But in the vast majority of circumstances, it's not. It's an entirely natural process. And the midwives are very, very highly skilled. Everybody was under the strict orders also that if anything went wrong, my baby would survive and I would not. If it was a touch and go, baby had the priority. So that rule was laid down in very strictly beforehand. But the pain, so when you have a baby at home, you can't have the pain relief like you would normally have in a hospital. And as a new mum, not having had a baby before, it's an eye-opening experience. Everybody knows that who's been a mum. And I naively thought I'd be able to sit in my fairly large bath and have like a birthing pool experience. I soon learned the error of my ways and realised there's absolutely no way I could manage in that little bath, which seemed tiny at the time, and ended up giving a birth to her on the sitting room floor after very, 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 very long labour. But the funny thing was, the pain, although the pain was there, the pain was a different kind of pain, because I knew that at the end of birthing my baby, sorry, my dogs, the joys of working from home, when I birthed my baby, I would have my new baby in my arms. And if somebody had been removing my leg or my arm, that pain would have been entirely different. My experience of it would have been entirely different. That pain, to have your arm or leg removed, or surgery in some way, shape or form, would have been a painful pain. It would have been a negative pain. Whereas the pain of going through labor and giving birth was a positive pain. And that perception made a massive, massive difference. Yes, I did have gas and air to help me. I can't say it took the pain away. It did lift my spirits because I was feeling really, really tired at the end. But the entire process of just knowing that I was getting that baby that I'd been carrying for those 9 months, it just changed how my experience of that pain. And when we feel that we're in control, when we have a different perception and a narrative around the circumstances that, say specifically the symptoms of menopause that we're experiencing, it also can enable us to cope with it better. Now, you've probably heard of the placebo effect. This is a really funny story I just want to tell you. So there's this builder on a working site, on a building site, and he was wearing hobnail boots, and this he'd trodden on a really, really large nail, and somehow it had gone straight up through the boot and it was sticking up outside the top of his boot. Well, as you can imagine, I mean, he was just writhing around in agony. Ambulance was called, he put on the stretcher, wheeled into the hospital, screaming in pain, just obviously going through a terrible, terrible, painful experience, and whisked into the operating theatre. And I don't know exactly what the surgeons did, but obviously they had to remove the nail and then take the boot off his foot. And it turned out that the nail had not actually penetrated his foot at all. It had gone up between his toes, not puncturing the skin at all, and had gone through the top of his boot and was sticking out of the top. And he obviously had imagined that he'd actually punctured his foot with this enormous nail. I suppose quite rightly so, you could understand why he would think that. But because he'd seen the nail come through, and because he'd assumed, his perception was that that nail had gone straight through his foot, he experienced all the pain and all the symptoms of somebody who actually had got a nail go through their foot. And that takes us into like the placebo and the nocebo effect. So placebo is like when you're given, you probably know, you're given a pretend drug, so maybe like a fake pill, a sugar pill, instead of say like an antidepressant. And there was another study done, it's quite a large study, I think it's 150 people who'd had surgery for a meniscal knee tear. So the meniscus is the cartilage that goes underneath the kneecap, and it's quite easy to tear them, especially if you're quite athletic and sporty, or you've fallen over, and often it requires surgery, just keyhole surgery. So half of these 150 people were actually given the surgery, and half of them, they were cut open and then they were just sewn up again. But neither group knew which of those two bodies of people which had had the actual surgery and which hadn't had the surgery, had just literally had the cut and then stitched it back up again. Well, remarkably, 1 year after the surgery, the group of people who had just been cut open and had no surgery at all, they actually were walking better than the group of people that had had the surgery. And 2 years later, they were both walking exactly the same. So how do you, and the meniscus is a really tricky one. In most cases, people say, yes, if you've got a meniscal tear, it's ragged, it will affect your biomechanics, you need to have it removed. So this is, it's a fascinating study, because the people that did not have the surgery, how on earth did their meniscus repair? How did that work? And all you can say is it's the placebo effect. It's the power of the mind. When we believe that something has happened to us positive, then the body then goes on to heal itself. And like I say, the meniscus is a really tricky one to repair. So it's a really great example to use in this situation. Also, there's also been studies on people with Parkinson's disease, and when they are given just a saline drip, so no drugs at all, just saline, salt water, they've seen remarkable increases in the release of dopamine again. So dopamine is what Parkinson's disease reduces. And when they're given a saline drip, the placebo effect is enabling the mind, the body to think, oh, I'm getting the drug. So yeah, that's working. I'm going to make more dopamine, and it reduces the Parkinson's disease symptoms. Again, that is just the placebo effect. It's the mind over the matter. It's the mind giving the body the hope, the narrative that it's in it, that it can help to heal itself. Given those people who are receiving that saline drip don't know that they're getting a saline drip, they just know, they know something going into them, and as a result of that, they're then allowing themselves to heal from whatever it is they think that medication is helping them with. The nocebo effect is the reverse. So when somebody takes like a sugar pill, but they use it for something negative. So there was a case of a man who had tried, he was on antidepressants, but they were giving him a placebo. So they were giving him a sugar pill instead of actual antidepressant medication. Now, you can always say he probably may not have tried to commit suicide had he been given the antidepressants. That's a separate argument. But just for this study in particular, he was given sugar pills. He overdosed on the sugar pills in order to try and commit suicide. His body reacted in exactly the same way as if he had taken the antidepressants. He survived, thankfully, but the body went into shutdown like it would do when you'd taken an overdose of antidepressant medication. It's just phenomenal. The reason I share those stories is because I just really want you to understand the power of the mind. I'm a great believer that we have so much power. You hear of people who've had strokes and they're in bed they're still lying there 6 months later, and they've heard the conversations, or shall we turn the machine off or not? And they're like, I'm going to make my little finger wiggle, or I'm going to make my little toe wiggle. And eventually they make that little thing wiggle. And then that little wiggle becomes like a proper move. And then that movement expands, and then they can rehabilitate over years, but they can get back to normal living, talking, walking, moving, just from the power of the mind, just the brain allowing itself to believe that it can heal itself. And when we come to something like menopause, it sort of puts it into perspective. When we're talking about Parkinson's and labor, childbirth, and recovering from strokes, but there's a lot of negative dialogue out there about the menopause, the menopausal symptoms. Yeah, I've had some of them. They're a pain in the backside. They really are. And I think if you're really struggling and you're in that sort of really messy, chaotic zone of not being able to sleep properly, you're feeling anxious, your belly fat's piling on, you're having these sort of hot flushes, you're spontaneously combusting in angry moments. It's a really horrible position to be in. And when I was perimenopausal, before I started to make the changes that I have been making, I had those experiences too. I would never say I had them severely. My hot flushes were pretty bad, and my night sweats were horrendous. For somebody who, I'm a psychotherapist, for somebody who never gets anxiety, I started feeling that creeping back in, or I could feel it creeping in. Thankfully, I knew what the symptoms were, so I knew it was anxiety. So I was able to sort of, okay, right, I need to make another change, because I can feel that those anxious things coming on, particularly like at nighttime, it would hit me and I'd just feel like I was fizzing, and it was just like, you just feel anxious for no particular reason. And so, but there is I think we are almost conditioned to think, oh God, menopause is going to be awful. Well, how about we change that narrative? How about we change that narrative that there are things that we can do, like I said at the beginning of this, when we take responsibility. And I know that might be a bit of a tough phrase, because a lot of you will say, but I am taking responsibility and it's still not making any difference. I think a lot of us do need to take responsibility for our lifestyle changes. And if you are already making those changes, then you've tried the things, you're focusing on your gut health, you're taking regular exercise to help your mental health, you're doing the strength training to help your physical health and stop the bone atrophy, stop the muscle atrophy. You're prioritizing your sleep so that you're benefiting your mental health and the hormonal balance, because sleep is absolutely, it's key. It's cornerstone, it's foundational for good health. You've got to prioritize your sleep. If you're not prioritizing your sleep, but you're doing everything else, prioritize your sleep. I promise you it'll make the biggest difference. I take daily adaptogen herbs because those are very good for our mental health and our hormonal balance. I really focus on my gut health. I make kombucha, I drink kombucha every day. I make sure I'm having a good selection of pre and probiotics, because our gut health is so important for our mental health and our health and our immune system overall. But if you're doing all those things already and you're still getting terrible symptoms, that's when you probably need to go and have a chat with your obs-gynae or your doctor or your neurologist and have a proper conversation. Say, look, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I know that I'm doing all the things that I should be doing and I'm still struggling. How can you help me? So many people or ladies that I talk to are prescribed antidepressants because they're hormonal, because they're menopausal. They're not depressed. They just need guidance and help in order to lay a path out for them so that they're not these passive creatures being fed things they don't actually need. They need a lifestyle change. Maybe they need hormone replacement therapy, in which case they should be given it, because I know it's a lot harder to get these days as well. You've got to have a very valid case to get hormone replacement therapy. And I think in some instances that's absolutely correct. I think we've grown up expecting medications at the drop of a hat, and we have to take ownership of our health first before we ask for those medications. And I'm not saying that like antidepressants don't work. Both do. Antidepressants and placebos work. Medication and the placebo effect is working. It's not about disregarding or disrespecting medicine. It's about saying, yeah, but the placebo effect is equally as strong. And yeah, if somebody's got a cancer diagnosis, I'm not going to say, oh, just think yourself well, because if positive thinking was all it took, we'd all be cured. We wouldn't need medicine. We'd all be running around like happy little things, and life would be fine and marvelous. It's not. We do need medicines for certain conditions, but I'm just saying that for something like the menopause, which is a natural process of our life, there's a lot that we can do to empower ourselves, to not just feel like we're being steered, but to actually get in the driving seat and to actually build the frigging road. Don't just drive the car, build the road you're driving on, make it go where you want it to go. And when you have that, when you can allow yourself to believe that you have that power within your identity, when you change the narrative of menopause being this, the perception of what you're going to get, into the narrative of, I've got this, I'm going to make the changes, I'm going to do these things that I need to do. I'm going to prioritize my sleep, eat relatively clean, avoid too much alcohol, quit smoking, definitely, eat more vegetables, focus on gut health, eat pre and probiotics, add adaptogen herbs. For me, they've made such a big difference. Do my exercise, drink plenty of water, get out in nature. Being outdoors is so important for our mental health too. And when you know you're doing those things, you're back in control. You are building that road. You're not passive. So I just really want to understand that I'm sharing my key here with you, because it is a positive way of dealing with menopause. It's now you've got the key to be able to walk through that door, to get in that car, to build that road, to drive where you want to go. It's about the sense of your ability to influence your thoughts and your actions. It's taking positive expectations one step further. It's not about believing something positive will happen to you. It's about giving you the ability to believe that you can bring something good about. It's putting you into the driver's seat. So this is a pretty short one today. I just wanted to share, I think those stories are absolutely fascinating around the placebo effect. From the builder with the nail through his boot, to Parkinson's disease symptoms were being reduced just by a saline drip, to somebody overdosing on sugar pills and having exactly the same physical reactions as though he'd overdosed on proper antidepressants. Our bodies and minds are such powerful things, and we are conditioned these days to no longer believe in ourselves, to no longer believe that we have access to that power, that we can generate that power ourselves. And I think also talking about things that you can do to help you. I know so many people who found meditation has been an absolute game changer for them. There are people that say, oh, you should meditate in this way. No, just find the way that works best for you. I think you can Google it. You can get meditation off YouTube, meditation videos off YouTube. You can pay for an app. I don't think they cost an awful lot. Just a few minutes every day is going to help you create that space, and that then can lead on to more things. It's not about doing everything straight away. If I were to tell you one thing to do right now, is prioritize your sleep, because that's going to make you make better decisions on a daily basis thereafter. It's also going to help you balance your hormones. Sleep is just the cornerstone. So absolutely prioritize your sleep. And then the next thing, maybe, I find exercise for me is my meditation. I'm not the best at meditating. For me, I need to do something dynamic, but I do prioritize my sleep. And I've also recently started cold water swimming in the sea. No wetsuits, just cozies. It's flipping freezing. But I tell you something, by doing that, it's made me understand that I'm so much more capable of things that I thought I was. I've got quite an adventurous streak anyway. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I hate cold water. My sister, my next sister down from me, I'm the eldest of 4 girls. My next sister down, she is just ninja. She gets straight. I don't know how she does it. She's always been like more rambunctious than I am. She's straight in. It's just like, how does she do it? I still get the cold water shock and lose my breath, and it takes me a while to get in. But once I'm in, it's incredible. And the cold water, strangely, doesn't feel cold. It's almost like feels acidic. I don't know if that's better or worse. It almost feels warm sometimes too, because it's so cold that your skin now reacts in a different way to like just cold water. And then when we get out, it's normally blowing an absolute hoolie. We get pebble dashed or sandblasted. We've got the wind screaming around us. But the way the body reacts, it's absolutely phenomenal. It doesn't feel cold walking from the sea back up to where the car and our clothes are. And it's quite a long walk, and we have to wade through another river to get to the car park. But then obviously when we get dressed, I then get that sort of delayed cold water, that cold feeling coming out of my skin and my bones. But I tell you what, it makes me feel so alive. And at the moment we're staying in sort of 7 to 10 minutes. When it's a little bit warmer, sort of that obviously goes up to about 15 minutes, possibly longer in the summer months. Right now it's very, very cold. And we've had quite a lot of very stormy weather, which I think has brought colder water up from the depths as well. It's an experience. But if it's something that you've considered doing, I would highly recommend you do it, because it makes you feel so alive. It's great for your mental health. It helps you. I mean, the endorphins we get afterwards, we always have a cup of tea together afterwards. We laugh our socks off. It's free. It's one of the best experiences I've considered doing for a long time. And it's one of those I wish I'd started earlier, but I have absolutely no intention of giving up. If you'd said to me in the summer, oh, Kate, you're going to be swimming in December or throughout the winter months, it's like, no way. It's like, yes. It's just, it changes your perception of what you're capable of. So start with something that just pushes you outside of your comfort zone a bit, whatever that is. It might just be drinking more water during the day. Just start with something and then build up on that, because when you look at everything, it can seem like a lot, but remember too, you're in the driving seat. You have these choices that you can make. You can choose not to, and if you choose not to, your symptoms are going to be worse, probably. But if you choose to make a few changes, your symptoms are going to improve, but it will have a knock-on positive effect to literally every aspect of your life. So rather than seeing menopause and perimenopause as this minefield of negativity and stress and symptoms and almost like rediscovering who we are and almost coming out being a different person, because it is quite a journey, let's embrace that new person. Let's embrace the fact that we've managed to get to this stage of life. Let's embrace the fact that we're women and we get the opportunity to have menopause. It's an opportunity that it's denied to half of the population, like childbirth, like periods. You know, there's so much negativity or negative association around them. I don't know. I just think I'm just very proud to be in a woman's body, and I feel special that I'm able to experience these things. And when you can see your midlife years as an adventure, and you might be thinking, oh, it's easy for her to say, she's not getting the symptoms. I've worked hard not to get the symptoms. I still get some, but nothing like I used to get them. I don't get them now because I've changed my lifestyle. I've changed how I react to things. I am a psychotherapist, so I understand the power of the mind. I'm also a very positive individual. I'm a survivor. I always say to myself, I'm a survivor. If somebody stuck me in the middle of nowhere, I know I would survive, or I'd stand a pretty good chance of surviving. And that's just my perception. Doesn't mean I will, but my perception is that I will survive. And if I already have that perception, my chances are going to be a heck of a lot better than somebody who thinks, oh no, that's it, death. I'm going to just die straight away. And it's the same with our menopause. If we can change our perception around menopause, if we can feel like we are building that road to drive on, rather than being steered by somebody else entirely, it changes your whole experience of it. So that's my 2 pennies worth for today. Thank you for hanging on in there. If you're still watching this, thank you. Please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future episodes. And if you've got anything you want me to include in a future episode, send me a message. I'll make sure I add that to the list. If you're watching this on social media, again, thank you so much for your time today. If you need help, if you've got trouble getting started, if you just want some advice on what I've talked about today, again, message me. The whole point of me doing this is to give you a sense of hope, to give you a sense of perspective over the menopause, and just to share my experience, which is working. So yeah, if I can help in any way, that's the whole point of me doing this. So thanks for hanging in there, and keep safe. The bloody virus is back out there again, isn't it? And get your shopping done, get your cooking done, and I'm excited for Christmas. I hope you are too.